We now want to move on with our first panel discussion of our Africa Day 2020, titled Focus Africa, Trends and Opportunities. Which trends and which developments do we see in the African market and which opportunities go along with them for Austrian companies? We want to discuss these questions with representatives from Austria and Africa. I therefore welcome here in our studio Amelie Groß.
Hello.
She's the Vice President of the Austrian Federal Economic Chamber. Hello. And via video call, Margarete SCHRAMBÖCK, Federal Minister for Digital and Economic Affairs. Angelika HUEMER, CEO and Managing Partner of the Starlinger & Co. GmbH, one of the leading Austrian companies in the field of mechanical engineering and process technology for woven plastic bag production and plastics recycling. She has been successful in the African market for many years and will share her experience and expertise with us. And further, I welcome our special guest from Africa, Hakeem BELO-OSAGIE, Head of Metis Capital Partners, a company providing financial services and capital funding. He had been working for the federal government of Nigeria before he established his first company back in the 1980s and has become one of the key players in the Nigerian and even African economy. Further, he is a senior lecturer of business administration at the Harvard Business School. Thanks for joining us. Ms. SCHRAMBÖCK, I want to start with the Austrian perspective. Why do you encourage Austrian exporters to take the step to Africa, and how does the Austrian government support them in their efforts?
Well, first of all, I'm very happy to join this discussion together with the other panelists. So I'm happy to be here because it is important. It is important how Europe, and I would say Austria especially, is working together with African countries and is using the opportunities. And I'm talking from experience. I've once been working for an IT company that was founded in South Africa and which was then a worldwide leader in certain IT integration business. So I have a personal contact also to the African continent. Therefore it is for me important to participate in this discussion. So what do we see as a government? Austria is a small country compared to a lot of African states with only 9 million inhabitants. But at the same time, we do have a lot of innovation in different areas which are interesting for African countries and can help. All taking into account the partnership, which is a partnership on a level playing field. It's a partnership which both sides can benefit. And Austria is very small, hence, but at the same time, we are export champions. So we have Mrs. HUEMER here, and she will talk about that later on. But so half of Austrian GDP is created by export, and every second job. So 6 out of 10 euros are created by the export correctly. So this is why it is so important, and we need new markets where we cooperate, and therefore we do have a lot of effort in this topic. One of them is, of course, our Go International program. This is what we are doing, and where the focus is to cooperate with companies abroad and to find a partnership so that it goes both ways. So that it's not only one side, us exporting, but also on a level playing field on the same sides that we work together. And therefore, Africa has a huge opportunity for us. There is a big population, very young people. I'm Minister also of Digital Affairs. We will also talk about that later on. And there is a lot of opportunity to innovate and also to solve big problems that we all together have on this earth, on nutrition, on environmental protection, and creating jobs with new technologies.
Thank you, Ms. SCHRAMBÖCK. So far now, Mr. BELO-OSAGIE, we've heard the approach of the Austrian government to support their entrepreneurs to enter the market. Now, how can we bring together both our companies and our investors with African companies and investors?
Well, first, let me say to you that in many ways, Austria is a much greater and far more successful country than it often realizes. I heard the Honorable Minister say very modestly that we're a very small company, a very small country. But in reality, I think Austria is a great country which has an excellent reputation because of so many of the United Nations organizations within Vienna. Austria is already well known within Africa because of the presence of the Organization for Petroleum Exporting Countries in Vienna as well. Your country is well known. It has no colonial history with Africa. And so the first thing I'd just like to say to you all is that Austria is very welcome within Africa, and it has a reputation for hard work, for modesty, and for accuracy. So please, I want often business people to approach Africa from the point of view of being confident that there is a market there. I think that I've also found in my own experiences in that the Austrian embassies in some of the African countries, I have found them to be manned by very capable people. And I think that they can be very good at sort of guiding you within Africa. I also believe that you also have many sometimes African students who are studying in your country, and they can be good contacts to tell you a little bit about Africa. But I think the starting point must be to decide for yourselves what are your strengths and which areas do you wish to make an impact on. And if I'm to recommend to you, I think Africa has great opportunities in the areas of technology, in particular, the whole fintech area. I think that's a big growth area. I think there are very big opportunities in infrastructure. We have a huge population that does not have sufficient infrastructure. I think that there are opportunities in health, indeed, and I also think that there are great opportunities in the area of agriculture. And I do believe that trade missions, people coming to visit Africa, working with local Africans, can make a very winning combination for your country.
Thank you. So fun. I want to come back to Ms. Gross in our studio. Now we've heard already which sectors are considered as interesting for Austrian companies from Mr. BELO-OSAGIE. I want to ask you now, in which regions and in which sectors do you see opportunities for Austrian entrepreneurs?
Let me start by saying that Africa is so far the continent of untapped market potential. So only 1.3 of our export goes to Africa. So you see there is still a lot of growth for Austrian companies. And I see some very important trends there which would be interesting for Austrian companies. Number one is the growing population. So it increases each year by 35 million people. And we see a strong urbanization. So people are moving to the cities. And those people need housing, affordable housing. So that might be a very interesting sector for Austrian companies. Number two is we see a wealth of resources versus, of course, the problem of climate change that we have everywhere. So that's quite interesting too. We still have some gaps in infrastructure, such as roads, electricity. And so far, many Chinese companies are very busy building roads and electricity and water pipes, etc. So that might be quite interesting for Austrian companies too. And what I think is really interesting is that there are that the development is not linearly. So we see that Africa is kind of leapfrogging into digital age. They're skipping some development steps. You cannot compare it to the development to Europe because it's just really different. And an example is the telecommunication infrastructure. So some decades ago, people did not have phones, but now they have smartphones. So that's quite interesting, and that happens in many different sectors. And you also asked me which countries are interesting. And of course, so far, South Africa is the most important country for export within Africa. But there are many other countries which are very interesting too. And what I think is really impressive is the startup scene, the startup hubs that are developing in different countries like Nigeria or Rwanda. And Rwanda has so many very interesting startups concerning education and e-learning, and I think that is really impressive.
Mm-hmm. Now, Ms. HUEMER, you have already taken that step of entering the African market years ago. Which advice can you give those who are about to take it, and which lessons have you learned on your way?
Thank you very much. First of all, I would like to briefly introduce Starlinger itself. We supply machinery for the production of woven bags made out of polypropylene tapes, recycling lines for all kinds of plastic scrap, and as well as recycled PET sheet lines. We have 2 production sites here in Austria and 1 in China. So our experience on the African market, yes, we have been doing business with African companies already for almost 50 years. The first customers of Starlinger in Africa was in Nigeria. It was Nigerian bag manufacturing company of the flour mills of Nigeria. And it was then followed also by the Dangote Group, which is currently our biggest customer in Africa, and 2 other big players based in Kano. In the early years, Starlinger often also acted as a general contractor. So we organized everything from the construction of the factory halls, setting up all the required infrastructure, and also the installation of the Starlinger machines, and at last also the training of the operators. The market for the woven plastic packaging in Africa is big. Almost all kinds of dry bulk goods such as rice, flours, grain, fertilizers and cement are transported and stored in woven polypropylene sacks. The big advantage is the strength of these bags. This is essentially, especially in regions like Africa. And that's why Starlinger has around 140 customers in 25 African countries. Countries also like Malawi, Mali, Burkina Faso, Angola, Congo, and even Swaziland. So doing business in Africa can be difficult. It's not easy to get initial business contacts. There are hardly any agencies which bring customers and the suppliers together. The potential customers are sometimes big national companies which even don't have a website. So business contact is mainly possible if you do the right connections and know the right people. The people we do business are very reliable, and we have rarely problems with customers in comparison to other regions. We have a very good cooperation also with the Austrian foreign trade officers in various African countries for many years already. They can provide data on the national economy, as well as also market data of the respective industry. Or they do also background checks on companies to see if they are creditworthy. Starlinger itself, we have a service and spare part office in South Africa, in Johannesburg. Our employees there take care of the customer of the southern and the southeastern region of Africa. And soon we also will open a service office in Nigeria. So we use also a 2-model strategy, which has proven successful, that machine versions with reduced optional costs will sell easily, and this generates then business, and afterwards then the producers start to invest also in additional upstream or downstream equipment. So generally we notice also that at the moment we have a lot of import restrictions in various countries, which is also difficult. So it makes that the customer gets the equipment they need, but we try really to find the ways to support our customers so that we can do the business. And also we had some difficulties also with currency exchange. Recently, this was in Uganda and also in Egypt. But Starlinger offers also our suppliers with credits to the customers, especially to long-standing customers we know since many years. And these credits we can also insure with the ÖKB. This is an Austrian financial institution that supports the export economy with and the capital market with its service. And so you have then hardly problems with the payback when it's secured. And also for us, we had in about the last 20 years, maybe only 1 or 2 cases where customers did not pay. And in these cases, we had then the insurance with the ÖKB. And currently we have credits to our customers in South Africa, in Tanzania, and also in Zambia. So the lesson we learned, it might be difficult to start a business, but once it is established, it's worth it.
So after all these difficulties you have faced, you say it's worth it. I want to ask Mr. BELO-OSAGIE now, as you're a self-made millionaire and a businessman in many fields and very successful in many fields, you've seen both, you've seen African and European companies and worked in them. What are, according to you, the biggest cultural differences between Europe and Africa when it comes to doing business?
All right, please, before I address that question, I really have to give praise and a lot of respect to Angelika, okay, and to Starlinger, and the tremendous achievements of their company. It's a very famous company within Africa and in Nigeria. And I think, you know, she very much represents the very best of European companies, and what they have achieved in Africa, you know, must be praised. So I have great respect. And I'm happy that I'm not your competitor in Africa.
Thank you so much.
All right then. Now, the biggest differences I find, you know, are the following. Number one, it's very important, I think, in Africa that you build a good and solid personal relationship, okay, with your clients or with your partners. I think in a lot of European countries, your relationship can be purely business, relationship that starts at 8 o'clock in the morning till 4 p.m. and you don't really have to do anything after that. I think that when you're doing business in a lot of African countries, you have to also make that person become your friend. So if he's getting, if the person's child, if they've had a child, you have to congratulate them on the birth of their child. You have to congratulate them when maybe their son has done very well or daughter in university. So you have got to cultivate a personal friendship and make the personal relationship very, very important. That's one. The second thing is that people in Austria, similar to people in Germany, tend to like structure. And you like things that are very structured and very different. In Africa, a lot of times things are rather unstructured, all right? There are some surprises, and I'm sure that Angelika will confirm to you that many times you thought that something was going to go one way, and you then had to have the flexibility to come with a quick solution on the other way. So you have got to learn to be flexible, right? And to not be too dissuaded because something initially doesn't go the way you wanted it to go. You will also find that you don't have as much data as you would like. And if you're going to expect or think that you're going to have lots and lots of information, all the figures ready for you to analyze the size of the market and so on and so forth, oftentimes you don't have as much as you'd like. But I tell my students at business school and I tell foreign businessmen that I advise that you know, the great business people 50 to 100 years ago, they didn't have much data themselves either. They didn't have market studies available, but they still went ahead and tried to make approximations, okay, as to what the size of the market was and so on and so forth. The points that Angelika made about the trade missions and how they can help you and how they can guide you is one that is very, very important. And the last thing I'd like to say to all of you is that you do have to have a good relationship with the government to understand government policies, all right, and to understand how those policies, whether it relates to tariffs, whether it relates to taxes, whether it relates to how you can remit your dividends. Those are all things that are very important for you to understand and be close to. But none of the cultural differences or none of the differences in the way in which you do business are so huge that they cannot be overcome. Because at the end of the day, I find the business people always connect, and they connect well. Both want to make a little bit of money together. Both, because of that, are willing to cooperate, and therefore both can use that as the foundation for success.
So both want the same, so they will find their way together. Amelie, I want to come back to you here in the studio. It was already mentioned twice here now from Ms. HUEMER and Mr. BELO-OSAGIE that there is a lot of support from the Austrian Federal Economic Chamber if one wants to enter the African market. There are several trade commissioners all over the continent to provide help. We've already talked to some of them earlier in the morning. Now, can you explain the services offered by them?
Mm-hmm. We have 6 offices in Africa, so 3 are in North Africa, 3 in Sub-Sahara. And as we already heard, their personal networks are so important and personal presence. So what they do is they have their local networks, they know the regulations, they know companies there, they know businessmen and women, and they provide information in every kind. And there is no one size fits all, but it's a very individual solution for everyone. So if you are thinking about going to Africa, just give them a call or write them an email and they can provide any information that you need.
Okay. Mr. Osagie, you already mentioned the topic of structure, and in an interview you said that instead of experts with a structure and clear procedure, one rather needs a spirit of adventure, a hunger for new things to be successful in Africa. Now, are you telling the entrepreneurs who want to enter the market that they don't need a business strategy for Africa?
No, I will say that they definitely need a business strategy, definitely. But it's a strategy that must be open to change depending on circumstances. And that is not really unusual because if you ask most famous businessmen, whether it's a famous man like Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, or any of the greatest businessmen, and you ask them the question, before you started your business, what was your business plan like? How many times did it change from the time when you were thinking about it to when you started, to the first year and to the second year? And you will find with most of us, you have a plan and you have to adjust the plan when you come up with circumstances. I don't think it's any different from your life. We all have plans in our own lives and we have to adjust them from time to time. So the plan that you have is important. It must be seen as a guide. But what I don't want people to do is to be so fixed to a plan that when they come up with an obstacle or when there's a need for them to do something slightly different, you must have that flexibility to make those changes. I think the fashionable word for it these days is you say that you must always be willing to pivot. That's the fashionable word these days. But I think all that really means is that you must be open to try new things and to go new paths in the event that the circumstances are different from what you imagine.
Thank you, Mr. BELO-OSAGIE. I now also want to put the focus on 2 current crises, but not in the way that we focus the crisis itself, but rather the opportunities that go along with them. And I'd like to ask you, Mr. SCHRAMBÖCK, the COVID-19 pandemic has sped up the adoption of new technologies and digital solutions. Do you see potential in the digitalization for doing business in Africa?
Yes, of course. I know that Africa has, with great speed, catched up on different areas. So sometimes Europeans think that we are ahead, but as I have been working for a South African company, I know how big this step is that certain countries and areas have done. For example, the Silicon Savannah. You have a lot of young people there eager to step into the digital age. They are living in the digital age. They just know this, and they often leave out older technologies, going directly the next step into mobile and applications, not thinking, no fear of what should we protect, but directly moving into this area. And this I have experienced in a lot of African countries. This is something where, of course, there's a lot of opportunity lying in it, working together. For Austrian startups, they only always think of going into Asia, but there is a big opportunity in going into the African continent too, and there to provide solutions and products which can be used there and are openly welcome. You have mentioned before one topic that is the finance sector. So we have a lot of opportunities in different areas which have been mentioned in the healthcare sector, in finance, and also I would say in smart production. As Austria is very specialized, we have a lot of SME companies. We have a lot of family business, and I know that Africa also has a lot of families working on it, how to establish a business, young people working into this direction. So I think there is a lot of opportunities and a lot of possibilities to join forces and to create something. Africa has this huge number of young people, which is an asset as such, and which of course enables Austrian companies to go there and to establish their business. So I would always advise also young people not only to look into Asia, but also to have a look into Africa and what country fits most to a cooperation. And here this Go International, Go International program that we have together with the Economic Chamber of Commerce, and we also put a strong focus from our ministry on that to continuously support it over the years. This is the best topic where help can be received, and where you can go and say, okay, in which country could I go? Where is the best fit for my business idea to be successful? And I think this is very important. And I do also see some similarity. We have talked about cultural differences, but also in Austria, we are a little bit like everything is possible, and we always need to be clever because our market is smaller. We need to export, we need to be very flexible, and I think this is there's a big possibility, and whoever has been to the African continent will love it, like I do, and will find a lot of friends there. As you have mentioned before, that's all about people doing business with each other.
Now, I once want to get back to the COVID-19 crisis and ask you, Mr. BELO-OSAGIE, as this crisis can be considered as a game changer in very many ways. What are your learnings from this crisis, and which trends do you foresee for the future, and which developments do you think will remain after this crisis?
It is still early to be able to say for sure what is the new normal going to be after the COVID crisis is over. We're not even sure whether or not it will ever be over, given all the new information that is coming out right now as to how effective vaccines may be. But I think one or two things we can glean, and I think it's that the trend to digitalization that was already taking place before COVID is now being rapidly accelerated. So for example, before in the banking area, as one example, before we were already moving towards people accessing their banking through the mobile phone in Africa. That was increasingly becoming the case. We were skipping the stage of credit cards, and we were skipping the stage of people going to branches, as is more normal, and we were moving more and more towards the mobile phone. Now, that trend is being rapidly accelerated by COVID as we seek to minimize human interaction and human touch. And so for me, the trend towards in medicine, telemedicine, that is people being treated over the mobile phone, we're going to see more and more of that. We are going to see in the food industry. What's been fascinating for me is the growth of the delivery services that you're beginning to see in a lot of the capital cities of many African countries. Beforehand, everybody thought that the issue was how do you reduce the teacher-student ratio in classrooms? So that how do we get a situation in which you have one teacher going into a classroom of about 40 students, and we want to reduce that to 20 students. Now, more and more, we're now thinking of how can we have some classes that are taught online, that can be taught to thousands of people, either over the phone or over television or over the radio or what. So for me, all of these particular trends, which all focus around better communication, mobile technology, digitalization, artificial intelligence, I think that this is the trend of the future, and they are going to have a tremendous impact in Africa.
Thank you so far. The other big crisis we're facing is the climate crisis, which has not disappeared due to Corona. And it demands also new solutions in many fields. Ms. HUEMER, have you experienced an increasing interest in sustainability and plastic recycling in Africa during the last years?
Yes, sure. And especially as a supplier of plastic recycling machinery and recycled PET sheet lines, we notice the importance of this topic. And therefore, recycling is a business opportunity in Africa. There is an increasing demand during the past years, but mostly because of the initiatives by important big international corporations and brand owners such as Coca-Cola. They are implementing their sustainability goals, and one of these global goals is PET plastic bottle produced from recycled materials, and so also in African countries. And this provides a market of recycled PET. Without this incentive business interest in recycling, would it be still quite low? And other attempts to recycle are not driven by not driven by governments, but by the industry. For example, in Kenya, KAM, it's the Kenya Association of Manufacturers. This is a private association, is promoting the topics of sustainability and recycling. And plastic recycling in Africa is mainly focused on two applications, the PET bottles, bottle to bottle, as I mentioned, and also the in-house recycling of the production waste, in our case, mainly for the woven bags. Starlinger is selling recycling lines to African customers for around 20 years now. And in the beginning, it was only the in-house recycling. The first PET recycling lines was sold, but already 10 years ago to Egypt, and some years later, then also to Morocco and to South Africa. And only in the past 2 years, we sold 4 big PET recycling lines to customers in 3 different West African countries. Among of them were two big PET lines to Nigeria. So a very good example for a successful PET recycling operation is our customer Extrupet in South Africa. They decided to install a line already in 2014. And because this line produces high quality food grade PET, so they now supply this recycled PET to Coca-Cola for the bottle production. And Extrupet has purchased the second line this year, which just has been recently installed. And now they have, only this customer has the production capacity about 28,000 tons of recycled PET a year. But this case, also the COVID has influenced this business a lot. Many deals and projects were now cancelled due to the economic insecurities, and companies are not really sure how the economy will react and decide and postpone investment. And another negative effect due to this COVID pandemic is that the plastic recycling sector is that the raw material price have dropped very dramatically for the virgin material. This is very cheap at the moment, and this makes it hard now for the recyclers to sell their products. So the demand now, which exists, is because of the brand owners who still drive forward their sustainability policies. So in conclusion, I would say sustainability awareness exists, but due to the current market situation, plastic recycling is primarily driven by the big brand owners.
Now, we've heard that in the plastic recycling, the demand is not increasing right now due to the corona impact, but in general, there is an increasing demand for sustainable solutions. Do you think that this development, this demand for sustainability, offers opportunities which are offered right now, where one needs to react right now and enter the market now and not later and wait a few years?
Of course, it's a perfect timing because sustainability is not only a topic here, but also in Africa. And we have so many impressive companies in Austria which are dealing with just this section. So it's a perfect timing, and don't be in doubt about coronavirus. It's here and we have to deal with it, but it's still a perfect timing to just use the time and go to Africa.
Mm-hmm. Ms. SCHRAMBÖCK, I want to hand out this question to you. Do you also think that it's the right timing to invest in this field right now, and maybe also other fields which are still interesting and not affected by the coronavirus that hard that you say one needs to wait until it's gone?
Well, first of all, let me say that the coronavirus is here and it is affecting world economy, of course. This in the economy in Europe and in Africa and in Asia, we are facing the biggest economic crisis that we ever imagined in our lifetime. So this has never happened to none of us before. And of course, we cannot say everything is the same as before. But at the same time, we do have a lot of people out there who are entrepreneurs, that they are brave and they have new ideas. And even in this crisis, we have a lot of new ideas which are generated, new business models. Especially look at us using these digital ways of communication. And I've been working in this industry for 22 years. It is showing us that we can have structures, we can have important structures still functioning, even if we have these restrictions which are happening all around the world at the moment again. So this digital transformation is helping us, it's creating new jobs and opportunities. And I'm 100% convinced that we will have a vaccine for COVID as we have for the grippe, so the flu. And it will be there. It's just a question of time. It's not a question if. And now we, of course, need to overcome this difficult period. In Austria, we do have the capacity to help our companies a lot with this 50 billion frame of supports in different areas for exports, for equity capital, for investing into startups, for covering the fixed cost. I know this is different in African countries, in a lot of them. So I see that there is a very big challenge, especially here, not to have disadvantages which are long lasting and falling back. At the same time, I must always repeat what I'm seeing. There is a lot of young people, skilled people, digitalized young people who want to be successful as entrepreneurs and who are eager to found businesses. And to line up with those and to see these opportunities, I think is the key. Maybe when it is possible again to meet, we should bring young people together, especially the startup scene. This is my concrete offer also to you, maybe to work together in this team and then to work on the fact to bring young people together. And especially we are working on an Africa strategy. Of course, COVID has put this a little bit back, but I will continue to work on it, and especially with a special focus on these digitalized businesses and the younger generation for which we create the future. And I do think that there are opportunities, especially now, in these two fields, digital solutions, as we have all mentioned, I think we agree. And also we agree on environmental solutions, where there is a lot of need in Africa, and as it is in Europe. And there is a lot of companies, Austrian companies, leading the ground, as Angelika HUEMER is representing one of them, a bigger company, but we do have a lot of small companies who have a lot of good ideas and opportunities and have developed good solutions.
For this final statement from your side, Ms. SCHRAMBÖCK, I'd like to invite all the others to also give their final speech, their final statement on how you encourage young people, young enterprises, entrepreneurs to enter the African markets. Why should one give Africa a chance, Mr. BELO-OSAGIE?
I think that I must echo what Ms. Margaret said so eloquently, which is, in some senses, maybe those of us like myself who are over 60, I think that we should be encouraging and waving from the sidelines. And I think we should really support a conference of younger people they are more international than us, they are more at home with the digital world, and it's going to be their future. And I think we should commit to doing a conference or which we can do over Zoom, bringing together young people in Africa and young people in Austria. Because I think that they need to have a conversation on how they can cooperate in a lot of the areas that we have discussed today. The future is there. It's there for them to seize. The opportunities are huge. And I think that they understand that in many ways better than us. I would like to just end by saying that any journey, especially an international journey, needs a certain amount of courage, needs a certain amount of risk. And that courage, which I think Angelika and co have already displayed, we need to display it over and over again, leaving what is familiar to do something that is unfamiliar, but with the confidence that when we make what is unfamiliar become familiar, that we will be rightly proud of the success that we have achieved.
Thank you. Now, after your courage, Ms. HUEMER has been honored by Mr. BELO-OSAGIE. Maybe some encouraging words from your side?
Yes, thank you very much. I can really agree. So Africa offers a wealth of great business opportunities. It has a vast population growth and a significant growth rate also for its economy in the next future. So my statement is, if Europe does not take the chance Africa offers, China will.
So much for hosting this talk, and thank you for participating in this panel. I think as we already heard, there are so many chances, and Africa is growing, not only the population, but also the economy. And yeah, as we already heard, Chinese are very involved, so it's time to get in touch.
I also want to thank you for your contribution here in the studio and via video call. And we want to go more into detail now in two different panel discussions. Esther Marker, the Trade Commissioner in Portugal, is talking about third-party cooperation, and Eva Frey, the Trade Commissioner in Morocco, about intercultural insights. If you don't know which one to choose, don't worry. You can watch both afterwards on demand.